the same room as one another are now all in the same room working together to fight for a better university as well as, you know, a better country and a better life for everybody, including ourselves. You know, speaking to what Risk was about, that, you know, we're about similar things. So, you know, our movement actually spread to other universities. There was a successful protest at Smith College against LeGrand at the IMF. There was a successful protest against the chancellor of the university that had the police officer who brutalized, that brutalized Occupy protesters with that famous spray painting. Yeah, so the UCs. But just to go through the end, there is no transparency at Rutgers University of the way our Board of Trustees, Board of Governors, people that decide on tuition and all the different things, we have no say and they don't have any.
They're trying to expand it now.
They're trying to expand it now when no students are around.
They had an emergency meeting last night. They're trying to expand it basically when we're not around. We can't speak for it. So we're working on that now. And honestly, I just wanted to go off what he said earlier. We weren't even done. We were, honestly, we were disappointed when she backed out. We were, like, commencement, we were about to have, like, banners drop, like, graduating seniors do stuff. Like, we were, like, my parents are here, but I was going to get arrested. Like, we were going to do some really crazy stuff. Yeah, Ezra wanted to get arrested.
I did. I actually argued to get arrested today.
He did.
But I think we're...
And we use this as a form to fight the corruption at the Board of Governors, Board of Trustees of the Rutgers University. And while we have administration that's completely resistant to the student voice, that has not silenced us, that has actually empowered us to keep on going. And we as a movement will continue fighting with a unified movement to bring change, not only to hold war criminals and corrupt politicians accountable, but also to fight for the needs of students and people all throughout our university and the country.
Our panelists, we're going to open it up now for questions.
Thank you. I didn't realize that I was going to hear about this wonderful thing that you all were involved in. Thursday, I just mentioned this to Ray, Thursday afternoon was Harvard commencement, and the commencement speaker was Michael Bloomberg. And he talked about this. He talked about how there was this, you know, the lack of tolerance was the problem, and specifically mentioning the successful protests against commencement speakers. So unfortunately, there weren't very many people like yourselves at Harvard commencement, because he also talked about how he was against repression, and I didn't hear anybody get up, and I would have been trespassed from Harvard for the rest of my life if it had been me. But people who could have done it didn't speak up about stop and frisk, for example, when he was speaking out against repression. And the other thing, just for the historical record, the commencement speaker at Harvard in 1968 was the Shah of Iran. And so I think it's great what you did, and when I started seeing the stories, I thought it was just really great to see. It's the first positive thing that I've seen and reported in sort of corporate media of people rising up since Occupy, in a way. I mean, so it's a very positive development, and I really commend you. I really appreciate it.
I'm Shandor, and then I see several hands over here. Shandor, and then I'm Bob.
Thank you. My name is Shandor John. I teach adjunct Latin American history at Hunter College, which is part of the City University of New York. And I just had a few quick things that I wanted to maybe say about the struggle to drive the war criminal David Petraeus and the reserve officers training for out of CUNY. The first is that charges are still pending against 2 of the students who were arrested in the protests against the racist attack on the Morales Shakur Center. It's important to demand that all of those charges be dropped. One of those students is here today. And the solidarity of everybody with those who have been targeted in this repression of CUNY is extremely important. We're going to be having a court case. Let's hope it, rather a court appearance. Let's hope it is the last. I believe it's on June 7th. The second is that I wanted to just tell people that to recommend to people a special issue of the CUNY International Club's paper we're one of the groups that was involved with United Front actions against Petraeus and ROTC. It's an article, The Bloody Trail of James Steele and David Death Squad Petraeus, and it traces the fact that the death squads that were organized in Iraq under the direct command of David Petraeus. Not only did he employ the specialist James Steele from Central America, who worked closely with the Atlacapo Battalion, which had exterminated the entire village of El Mosote in El Salvador, but it traces how this goes back to the Kennedy administration and the Lyndon Baines Johnson administration in their development of a network of death squads in Latin America, and how that expertise was then brought to the U.S. And it also, I think, is one of the things that is of particular importance in the struggle at CUNY, is to show that there really is a ruling class. You know, when Glenn talked about the American Enterprise Institute, there really is a capitalist ruling class in the United States. And when they say to the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York, who are patronage appointees, mainly from the banking and real estate industries, bring David Petraeus. They say, yes, sir, that's what we're going to do. When you want us to do it? And the American Enterprise Institute says, right away. Okay? You want us to clear away some of these rowdy students that are getting in the way? Yeah, bring on the police, both inside and outside of the City University. Both those trained in this cop school here, and the ones who run roughshod over the students in this cop school here. And the last thing is that I think that because of all of these things, it has been shown to be particularly important in discussions of this question to make the connections that we are not only opposed to the techniques of the CIA and the ROTC and the U.S. Army and all the rest of them. We are opposed to, we are irreconcilably opposed to their purposes. We are opposed to the nature, the purposes, the goals, and the techniques of every institution of American imperialism, and it must be driven out of the campuses, and it must be driven out of power, and that's only going to happen through a revolution.
At the same time, I'm going to say I agree with your comments. My name is Mark Turner. I'm a supporter of the Legion of the Revolutionary Party, and I'm also on the staff at City College in the math department, and former student and current activist, former student activist at City College. So, long history there. We drove Colin Powell out of City College in a very similar fashion that you drove Condoleezza Rice on. He was supposed to receive an honorary doctorate at City College in 90 or 91. My memory is fading. And we organized the protest, and he decided at the last minute that was not going to show.
And he came to Harvard instead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it was the same year. Yeah, I think it was the very same year. Congratulations to you guys, and I feel your enthusiasm. Very well done. And also, I was part of the takeover in 1989 that led to the Assata Shakur Center. And I am currently faculty advisor to the main student club there, which was the Students for Educational Rights, the founding organization. And they, it was a devastating blow to activity at City College, for sure. Parents can tell you how devastating it was. So it's been a major blow. It was an organizing center for decades. And it's unfortunate that it's gone, and I don't think it's coming back. Yeah. Not without some.
Not in that same.
Not in that same way. I primarily wanted to raise the question of the ROTC, though. I know the PSC has opposed it globally, and there's been successes individually. But at City College, every time I argue against the ROTC, there's a large, in the union meetings, there's a large voice for the ROTC. Now, City College is more tied into the military than any of the other campuses, and has been for a long time. You know, I was a physics graduate student, and I know why, because a large portion of the money supporting the sciences is coming from the Department of Defense and so on. But I'm trying to find a way to argue within the union against the ROTC, and finding it very difficult. And I'm usually not that hard up for words, and it's become a lot of resistance. So any help I can get on how to fight against it would be great.
Are you referring to PSC?
What?
You're referring to the PSC union?
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, we'll be up there in the fall organizing to try to get a vote. So we'll work together.
I'll be happy to work with you.
What about the firemen and the police union? You have to get all the unions together, construction, you know, we have other people that are. All right, but let's unify it. You gotta unify it. You can't select your unions.
The only thing I want to say is it just seems like as long as it's people's bread and butter, it's really hard. And if you have a labor movement that's about only people's bread and butter, you're always going to run into this problem. If it's about something, a higher principle that the labor movement is part of, then you can make the argument there. But as long as it's bread and butter, people are getting their bread and butter from the military, and that's the case not only on college campuses, but all throughout the United States everywhere. We're through like Eisenhower. So, yeah, you've got to we all have to talk about that.
Okay, you and
the PSC resolution is pretty good. It's like I think it's almost 4 pages. So I think it'll be online pretty soon, and you can use that. I mean, there are right-wing faculty who think ROTC is wonderful.
Yeah.
And you're meeting these people, right?
Yeah.
I think the guy, who's maybe head of the faculty senate there is one of those people, right? So, you know, there are all these.
What does BSE stand for?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Professional Staff Congress represents the faculty and staff at CUNY. So the other day, it passed this resolution overwhelmingly. It was like 95-5, against ROTC. So, you should get a copy of that. But, there's all these arguments in favor of ROTC. I mean, they take advantage of the fact that a lot of students are poor and can't afford these ridiculous tuitions, right? And so ROTC will pay full tuition, right? And they will pay up to $500 a month stipend. Now, if you're a kid with that much money, that sounds pretty good, right? And, it's really a terrible situation. But, one of the things the resolution points out is that how many people don't return from these wars? How many people come back missing arms and legs? 500,000 people came back with post-traumatic stress disorder from Afghanistan and Iraq. So what are the costs of going, off and serving as an officer or a soldier in ROTC? But one final point, which is that the guy who was sitting next to me before he left, but he fought against ROTC at City College back in the early the early 70s. And ROTC was driven out of City College, but now it's back, right? I marched against the Vietnam War in the 1960s. I was in Students for Democratic Society. We thought we had accomplished a great victory. The U.S. left Vietnam in defeat. We thought that was just great. But think about all the wars since then, right? So unless you change the system, right, unless you have revolution, it's not going to change. So my question for the panel is, how do you connect? How do you make this difficult connection between fighting against militarism, but then also fighting against the foundation of
What about turn, Pete Seeger? Turn, Pete Seeger.
we have
The Birds.
have
Sing
an
that
order of
song.
speakers.
Okay, well,
People asking questions. Would the panel like to speak to?
I mean, I would just speak from Rick's standpoint, right? This is why we're not just student power. It has to be shown that, right, it does affect the community. These are oppressed people, working class people. It does sound amazing when you're a freshman coming in and you're coming from somewhere where you don't have it, where you see this as being the only opportunity. That's why we actually try to get down to the bases within the communities. we actually go into the communities and we find out what is the issues, listen to their problems, right? Bring it back to how you synthesize what's going on, and then, you know, put it into an order and try to bring it back into the communities as well as the students, and try to show, like, it is not just because like ROTC is being put in, this is great. It's actually something more than that, right? It's like, we would always ask the question, why do you think ROTC and Petraeus was being brought in at the same time? With also the understanding of, I mean, we give studies of the CUNY struggles, of what is imperialism, what is capitalism. These are things also we got to remember that it's very rare to find professors as well who, when we go into school, that teach us these things, right? It's not that easy. You go to high school, you're not being taught this. So I mean, we understand that it's not just rooted. I mean, students come from different backgrounds, but I know in Kansas City College, like I said, it's based in the middle of Harlem. And it's very rare that I'm sitting in class and I ask them, where are you from? That they go, I'm from Harlem, or I'm from somewhere, the Lower East Side, or Queens or something like that. Where they're from, Westchester, you know, somewhere upstate, in Tuxedoville, I don't even know, you know, places we've never heard of. So we try to, but for us getting down to the root causes and having people understand that it's not just on the surface and you shouldn't just fight against this one thing. We actually like do studies and to get people to understand what the root of the problem is instead of just looking at the top.
Well, back in the 1970s when I started teaching at a business college, Baruch, City University's business college, I was kind of depressed, but it was a job. And then I quickly figured out that speaking purely for myself and as a department chair, the people that I work with, that I don't think there's anything more socially useful that I can do than to be teaching introductory anthropology to business students. And I make it absolutely clear that our program is not there to support the business program, it's to undermine it. And I think teaching one class at a time, get students to be critical of the society they live in is one thing that almost all of us can do.
Yeah. So, and then we have two questions and we only have 5 more.
Okay, so just to quickly answer, I don't know if I understood your question correctly or how well we can elaborate on it because it's a difficult question to answer. But I think one of the real issues that we're dealing with when it comes to ROTC coming to campus and recruiting a lot of students is the issue of classism and working class students at colleges. You wouldn't see ROTC so successful at a school like Princeton. Those are people with the trust fund though. But at schools like Rutgers and CUNY, like I think one of that the struggle against militarization and people being recruited into ROTC programs in order to afford their education or for whatever reason that they would be joining, however the Army would help them. I think that struggle has to be united with the struggle against things such as student debt and tuition hikes and all of these things. And when we can set up a network to resist tuition hikes and all the things that would cripple students financially, if we can fix those issues.
Run for mayor, run for governor, do it, you're old enough.
If we can fix those issues, then we won't. Then the battle against militarization of our campuses is that much easier. So it's really a united front as it is.
Dave, did you want to speak to that also?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one course, one victory, that's big. And, we tend to sort of get despairing and say, oh God, look at all this. But this was a major, major victory, and it was done on the model of Occupy, as I understand it, the real democratic procedure. You guys are a model for what other universities can accomplish. Condoleezza Rice, under the radar, spoke at the University of Arkansas 2 months ago for $175,000 out of the student fund. Did the students say anything? No. She spoke at the University of Minnesota for $125,000. Students tried to say something then, but you guys did it. And this is, this is a breakthrough, okay? The last thing I'll say is that I was shocked when the Jesuits at Fordham University invited John Brennan, one of the practitioners of enhanced interrogation techniques, to be the commencement speaker 2 years ago, okay? Now, some students, this is my alma mater, so I felt really strongly, some students protested. And one was given an interview with the president of the university, a Jesuit named Father Joseph McShane, S.J. And he said, you know, well, McShane says, well, what's your problem? He says, this guy is guilty of torture. It's very clear. And do you know what the head of Fordham University said to my friend? He said, well, torture is a gray issue. Now, that's, you know, why do you, well, why was Brennan invited? Guess who sits on their board of governors? General Jack Keane. And guess who's making really a lot of money? General Jack Keane and the other guys up in Tuxedoville, okay, who sit on the board. And so having a guy like Brennan is good, not only politics, but it's good money for Fordham. That's a disgrace, okay? And so I prefer to look at you guys as a real new opening. And I'm just in awe at what you've accomplished, and anything I can do to help you, I'd be delighted.
Thank you.